Welcome to the special called September 17, 2024 City Commission meeting. If you would, please stand with me for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Can we have a call for attendance, please?
Commissioner Pruitt,
Here.
Commissioner Whitt,
Here.
Commissioner Vowles, absent, Commissioner Thomas.
Here.
Mayor Staten.
Here. First up on the agenda, we have a presentation from our economic development people and others. If you would, just come to the podium.
Thank you, Mayor. Missy Vanderpool with Henderson Economic Development here to talk a little bit with you guys about retail recruitment and some steps that we've been taking on that. As Henderson continues to grow, there's been a collective thought that's come to fruition about how do we attract and establish new businesses in our community, and how do we do that with current economic development efforts that we have, along with some of our other community partners. So we currently, as economic development, and most of you know because we've worked closely on several projects, economic development typically is working with manufacturing and industrial recruitment. And so there's some crossover on recruitment efforts, but this was more of a concerted, how do we look at a concerted effort to recruit commercial companies? So a group of us did some research and did a trip to Madisonville to learn from them about what they've done for retail recruitment. And then came back, and Mayor and several of us talked about how do we do this in Henderson? What could it look like in Henderson? And we went from shooting for the stars to let's narrow this down and see how we can make it work. So there's a company called NextSite, and NextSite does retail recruitment. They do some coaching, they analyze data, they help you realize what is doable for your community, and they understand what developers and retail companies are looking for. They have a tool that's called Alpha Maps. And Alpha Maps is something that even the tourism and chamber feel like we can use today, even without any retail recruitment. It looks at takes cell phone data and will tell you travel patterns, commuting patterns, how many times someone has visited Walmart. So we are going to know how many times y'all go to Walmart. No, we're not really, but and if you go to Walmart, are you also going to another retailer, and what those patterns are? So it's some really interesting data. Also, when we have tourists into our community, where they're traveling from, information like that. So that's a piece of this. So as I'm buzzing through all of this, we also probably need to talk about what is retail recruitment and what is retail to us, because when we say economic development, some people are already assuming that that's part of what we're doing. But retail recruitment is more about attracting new retail businesses to open in our community. Retail meaning hotel, grocers, department stores, full service restaurants, things of those nature. So that's what we mean when we say retail recruitment. And so as we've met and kind of narrowed down of the scope of what this program could look like, we've thought that it would be a great first step to contract with NextSite. And NextSite would kind of walk us through the first steps of what this could look like for us. So to work with NextSite, they submitted a proposal to us, and it includes the Alpha Maps, and the proposal is for $35,000. And what that proposal includes is, again, they will be doing some research on our part. They'll be doing marketing materials for us to have at trade shows. They'll go to a minimum of 7 trade shows a year and represent us. And we will be able to go along with them to those trade shows. They will help get meetings with these developers. Certain companies work with specific developers. So, I don't know when an XYZ company typically works with 1, 2, 3 developers, and they'll get meetings set up with those developers for us to have one-on-one meetings with those. As we've been talking with them, they've already started working on some of that for their next trade show, which is October 17th. So this is a work in progress and working pretty fast. So that's what's included in their scope of work. It is a 3-year commitment, $35,000 a year. At the end of the first year, with 30 days' notice, we can step away from the contract. The contract would be held with Henderson Economic Development. We would be the one signing the commitment with Next Site. But what we're here to ask of you all, well, I guess let's just pause. Do y'all have any questions? I went through that really fast, so.
Are the trade shows local or are they nationwide?
They'll be nationwide. Their ICSC is kind of the national trade organization for these. They are Nashville, Atlanta, Indianapolis. I'm gonna miss some. The big one, the annual big one, is in Las Vegas, and it's usually in May. So we will have some time to prepare for that one. But the first one would be in Atlanta, Georgia, and it is October 16th. No other questions?
If I missed it, I'm sorry. Did you discuss the committee, or are you gonna discuss the?
Yeah, and so, as we develop this, there will be some work that needs to be done. There's been a lot of work go in, from several of our community partners to get to this point, to go through it, but we will have a committee set up, of some community partners as part of our, agreement with the city for our current funding and some of our other organizations. One of the pieces of that is to synergize with our community partners, tourism, chamber, different organizations. So as a committee, we'll have that set up, have our planning and zoning represented on that, and then the city and the county represented on that committee as we do real estate audits, looking at sites, because we'll need to have sites ready to market for these trade shows. And then just as we're working with developers and negotiations, the committee will kind of be that first stop for those. Any other questions? So the ask is, we'll be making the same pitch at fiscal court. We'll be asking for their portion to go towards the alpha maps portion of the agreement. And so what we're asking of the city is a commitment of $27,500 for this year, and it could be up to 3 years. But we will have that ability, if things aren't going well, that we can stop that at the end of the first year. It will run from the day I sign the contract, like that way, not just, a year to calendar year. It will be September 17, 2024 through September 16th of 2025.
Missy, how is that alpha map data collected?
Most of it is cell phone data that they use, and then other data that they have from real estate data, closings, all different sources. But the main thing that they collect from is to know who's in your community is cell phone data. So when it's pinging, they know where you are at all times, Robert.
For the record,
That's what I was.
they're already collecting that, so.
Yeah.
Signing
We might as
the
well be able to
contract
use
would
it.
not cause them to collect
Yeah.
additional data. It's just distributing out the data in a different
Yeah,
way.
it's already there.
And so for example, the way that could help
Yes.
some people is like Abby with the Blues Fest. Instead of kind of knowing about how many people we have, we'll have a much clearer picture of how many people we have, exactly where they come from, which nights they were here, things like that. And then businesses, Clay has mentioned that it would be a really good tool for the chamber to help distribute to their businesses, so that they can see where their customer base is coming from and
What they like.
Yep, what they like, what's working, what's not.
Mayor, of their request, every year, Board of Commissioners funds our vision plan. Part of our vision plan does include attraction of retail, and what I would probably recommend to y'all, if you desire to do this, we could use the appropriated funds out of that account to pay for projects. So this would not be, or would require a budget
And just to clarify, you're asking for 1 year, but it could be 3 years if next year we evaluate it and want to continue, but it would be a separate vote at that time.
And the first one is when?
We will
First.
start, we could sign the contract today.
No, I'm talking about which
Oh, the
first trade show.
It's October 16th.
Okay.
It's in Atlanta.
Right down the road. We need to
And those are
move it.
usually 1 day, 1.5 day. He says second day, it's not necessary to stay the whole day, so 1.5 day. You're down there, running around. They said, don't wear your heels that day, so I'll be in my tennis shoes and running around trying to meet with as many people as we can to get them to look at our community.
And it really, at the timing of all this is kind of nice for us because we've got all that property that we've been, that we've got over by Walmart that's there for retail. And then also, as we go along, we're looking at that long-term loop road project. And if that project does move forward and come to fruition, it will create over 200 acres of mixed use and retail space. And that's going to be several years down the road, 5 years, 6 years down the road. But by that time, hopefully, we will have the process down so good that, it's just going to be very easy for us to navigate through and pull in the retail market that we want to have here in Henderson. Instead of just letting it happen, we would have a say-so and go out and target things that we know that we need, like a new hotel or family-oriented businesses, family activities, stuff like that, so. Yep.
So one thing I will bring y'all up to date on, last week, Planning Commission held their first public meeting to discuss the future development in and around the interchanges of I-69. And that process is important to process Missy discusses because when she goes to these trade shows or when they represent us, they want to know where properties are. Okay, that's number one. Number two, Missy and her partnership along with city staff and our utilities met last week with our design professional to begin the layout of our property behind Walmart. It is also critical that we want to have done before someone goes to Atlanta. That way we have something to show someone we have for sale. So that group of people are working very hard to get that done, and just so you know that everything's coming together to make moves.
You gonna need a motion?
We might, but before we do, does anybody have any other questions or thoughts before we possibly entertain a motion?
She said 35 total,
35 total, what
I guess-
would be our cut?
27.5,
and so the
27.
county would be asked 7,500.
because that's the Alpha Maps portion of it. If we did Alpha Maps by itself, that's what the cost of Alpha Maps would be.
And the thought process on the split was twofold. One is the county is certainly willing to support the Alpha Maps part of it. They're willing to support the whole thing, but two, we recognize that the majority of the work is actually going to be to benefit the city.
Yeah.
And the city's in the county, and I get that part, but that's kind of the reasoning for that, and that's why we would be taking
Yeah,
on
on the tax
so much of
dollars
that.
going to those.
Just for reference, the first plan that was put together, the budget was $180,000. And so as they have worked through the process, they've gotten that down to 35. So.
And there will be some more, that's not including staff time, obviously, or merchandise that we're gonna have to purchase or travel, that we're gonna each absorb. So there will be more cost to that, but that's the portion we're asking of.
And the possibility of turning up the quality of fashion and eateries can go on along with our subdivision. I think it's a good idea.
Thank you.
Deal. So yes, and answer your question, Commissioner Pruitt, if we would like to move forward with this, then I think a motion would be appropriate to agree to the $27,500 for the first year's worth
Yep.
of this program.
move that
Or
we,
using the funds from.
Using the vision plan
Vision
fund,
fund,
yes.
Okay. Okay, I'm gonna move that we use the vision fund plans to fund the first 27,000.
500.
27.5, okay. And looking forward, maybe picking up the next 2 years after that.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Any other discussion or questions? Take a roll call, please.
Commissioner Pruitt,
Aye.
Commissioner Whit,
Aye.
Commissioner Vowles,
Aye.
Commissioner Thomas,
Aye.
Mayor State.
Aye. Thank you, Missy, and
Good job.
Abby, and Clay, and everybody that's been involved so far. Appreciate it. We don't have a consent agenda, but we do have a set of meeting minutes.
We have the minutes of the September 20th,
Yes.
September 20th, 2024 regular meeting.
We have a motion to approve, please.
So moved.
We have a second?
Second.
Roll call, please.
Commissioner,
The
it was,
The tenth.
Oh, sorry, it says
Yeah.
the 20th. on
It's,
my
I-
paper.
I know
this one
it-
says the 10th. Did you say the 10th?
Yeah.
She said the 20th.
Okay, 10th,
it
yeah, yeah.
says the 20th on the
Yep.
paper, but I didn't think that was right.
The updated
Okay,
one's the
so-
10th, yeah.
September
We-
the 10th.
We did not go all the way through that, so I'm going to use executive privilege and say that didn't count. So
Thought she
go
said
ahead
the
and
10th.
reread that, and we'll start
That's what
all
it
over.
says.
We have the minutes of the September 10th, 2024 regular meeting.
Thank you. We have a motion to approve.
So moved.
We have a second?
Second.
All right. Roll call, please.
Commissioner Pruitt,
Aye.
Commissioner Whit,
Aye.
Commissioner Vowles, Commissioner Thomas,
Aye.
Mayor State.
Aye. Next up, we have the second reading of an ordinance providing for the levy and collection of ad valorem taxes.
We have ordinance number 41-24, ordinance providing for the levy and collection of ad valorem taxes. An ordinance of the City of Henderson, Kentucky, providing for the levy and collection of ad valorem taxes for the fiscal year beginning July 1st, 2024, and providing for the time of payment for such taxes, penalty, interest, and discount.
We have a motion to approve, please.
So move.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Do we have any comments, questions? Roll call, please.
Commissioner Pruitt,
Aye.
Commissioner Whit,
Aye.
Commissioner Vowles,
Aye.
Commissioner Thomas,
Aye.
Mayor State.
Aye. Next up, we have an ordinance pertaining to Dana Drive.
Ordinance number 42-24, ordinance regarding annexation. An ordinance annexing certain unincorporated territory to the city of Henderson, Kentucky, located in Henderson County on the west side of US Highway 60 West and being a portion of the original right-of-way of Highway 136, now known as Dana Drive, and consisting of approximately 4.686 acres.
Do we have a motion to approve, please?
So moved.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Do we have any comments, questions? Roll call, please.
Commissioner Pruitt,
Aye.
Commissioner Whit,
Aye.
Commissioner Vowles,
Aye.
Commissioner Thomas,
Aye.
Mayor State.
Aye. Commissioner Thomas, that was an aye?
Aye.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, it sounded like an
It came out
aye.
somewhere. I don't know where it came from.
All right, thank you. Just wanted to clarify. Ordinance amending budgeted positions and classification.
Ordinance number 43-24, ordinance amending portion of City of Henderson fiscal year 2025 budget. Ordinance amending City of Henderson budgeted positions and job classifications of the 2024 through 2025 budget for certain non-hazardous positions in the administration department.
Do we have a motion to approve, please?
Moved.
Second.
We have a motion, Commissioner Witt, second. Pruitt. Any comments, questions? Roll call, please.
Commissioner Pruitt,
Aye.
Commissioner Whit,
Aye.
Commissioner Vowles,
Aye.
Commissioner Thomas,
Aye.
Mayor Staten.
Aye. Next up, we have the first reading of an ordinance pertaining to the Finance Department.
Ordinance number 44-24, ordinance amending job classifications and pay plan. An ordinance approving amendment to job classifications and pay plan by creating the position of Assistant Utilities Billing Supervisor.
Do we have a motion to approve, please?
So moved.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Do we have any comments, questions, suggestions? Roll call, please.
Commissioner Pruitt,
Aye.
Commissioner Whit,
Aye.
Commissioner Vowles,
Aye.
Commissioner Thomas,
Aye.
Mayor Staten.
Aye. Next up, we have a related ordinance to the Finance Department.
Ordinance number 45-24, ordinance amending portion of City of Henderson fiscal year 2025 budget and appropriation ordinance. Ordinance amending City of Henderson budgeted positions and job classifications of the 2024 through 2025 budget for certain non-hazardous positions in the Finance Department. It's supposed to be finance, correct?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm gonna change that title, Finance
Finance.
Department, yes.
Anything else to read?
No,
All right. We have a motion to approve, please.
So moved.
We have a second?
Second.
Any comments or questions? Roll call, please.
Commissioner Pruitt,
Aye.
Commissioner Witt,
Aye.
Commissioner Vowles,
Aye.
Commissioner Thomas,
Aye.
Mayor Stain.
Aye. Next up, we have an ordinance authorizing city general obligation bonds. Oh, is this one of those long ones?
Yep.
All right.
Ordinance number 46-24, an ordinance of the City of Henderson, Kentucky authorizing the issuance of its City of Henderson, Kentucky general obligation bonds, Series 2024A, in an approximate aggregate principal amount of $12,165,000, which principal amount may be increased by up to $1,220,000 or decreased by any amount for the purposes of financing the cost of the acquisition, construction, installation, and equipping of 1, a fire station for the Henderson Fire Department, 2, a convention center, 3, a road construction project for retail development, and 4, a sports pavilion. Approving the form of bonds, authorizing designated officers of the city to execute and deliver the bonds, authorizing and directing the filing of a notice with the state local debt officer, providing for the payment of and security for the bonds, establishing a bond payment fund for the bonds, affirming the maintenance of the existing sinking fund, authorizing the acceptance of the bid of the purchaser of the bonds, and repealing inconsistent ordinances. The ordinance authorizes the city to issue a series of general obligation bonds designated as the City of Henderson, Kentucky General Obligation Bonds Series 2024A, or the bonds, in an approximate aggregate principal amount of $12,165,000, which amount may be increased by up to $1,220,000 or decreased by any amount for the purposes of 1, paying all or a portion of the cost of the acquisition, construction, installation, and equipping of A, fire station for the Henderson Fire Department, B, a convention center, C, a road construction project for a retail development, and D, a sports pavilion. 2, paying capitalized interest on the bonds if desirable. 3, paying the cost of any credit enhancement for the bonds. And 4, paying the cost of issuance of the bonds. Provisions are made in the ordinance for the payment of the bonds and the security therefore, the application of the proceeds of the bonds, the creation of a bond payment fund for the bonds, and the continuation of the city's existing sinking fund. The ordinance also contains certain covenants made by the city in connection with the bonds. The bonds are to be sold at public competitive sale and shall mature or be subject to mandatory sinking fund redemption in varying amounts on December 1st of each year, commencing December 1st, 2025 through and including December 1st, 2044. The bonds pledge the full faith, credit, and taxing power of the city, and provision has been made for the collection of a tax to pay the principal and interest due on the bonds, subject to certain credits as provided in Section 12 of the ordinance as required by KRS 83A.060. Section 12 of the ordinance is set forth below in its entirety. Section 12, General Obligation Pledge. The bonds shall be full general obligations of the city, and full faith, credit, and taxing power of the city are hereby pledged for the prompt payment of the bonds and the interest thereon. During the period of the bonds remained outstanding, there shall be and there hereby is levied annual on all taxable property in the city, in addition to all other taxes without limitation as to rate, a direct tax in an amount sufficient to pay the principal of and the interest on the bonds as and when due. It being hereby found and determined that the current tax rates of the city are within all applicable limitations, the tax shall be and is hereby ordered to be computed, certified, levied, and extended upon the tax duplicate to be collected by the same officers in the same manner and at the same time the taxes for general purposes for each of the years are certified, extended, and collected. The tax shall be placed before and in preference to all other items and for the full amount thereof, provided, however, that in each year, to the extent other lawfully available funds of the city are available for the payment of the bonds and are appropriated for such purpose, the amount of such tax upon all of the taxable property in the city shall be reduced by the amount of such other funds so available and appropriated.
Is that it?
That's it.
Before we get a motion, Chip, you want to come up and tell us a little bit more about what we're looking at, sir?
Yes, sir. Chip Sutherland with Baird. Thanks for having me. Nice to see everyone. What Well, what we're looking at here is a normal issuance of general obligation bonds. We're scheduled to sell here pretty soon. Interest rate environment's favorable. We're probably expecting around a 380 plus or minus, which is really good from a borrowing perspective. I'll remind the city council that the last time we went through a rating process last year, the city Moody's affirmed the rating at AA3, which is highly desirable for cities to keep, and it had to do with the local economy, the proximity to a good economy in Evansville, ample reserves of the city, and so the city's in great stead. High level, I think I wanted to make sure I communicate when I get a chance before the city council. I want to make sure you guys knew what good shape the city is in from a financial standpoint. Let's see here. We're going to sell bonds October the 16th. It's a competitive bond sale. Baird, as municipal advisor, will structure the terms and conditions with help, and then we will solicit bids from underwriting firms. We expect robust bidding. Sell on October 16th, so that's kind of when we lock in the interest rate, and then we'll close 3 weeks later. Mark Franklin with Dinsmore's video feed here. You can blame him for writing the long summary. I would have probably, were an attorney, I'd have written a shorter one, but that's not my call. Mark, you anything that you needed to add?
Well, I don't know if you can hear me. That sounds good. Last time we did this, Marie had her summary recorded, which I thought was awesome because she didn't have to read it. So, she did a great job as always with the summaries.
Thank you. And before we do any Q&A potentially, let's go ahead and get a motion to approve, please.
So moved.
Do we have a second?
Second.
All right. Do we have any questions for the gentleman from Baird? No, I think you did a good job summarizing. It sounds like we're looking to fund the new fire station that we've been talking about, so we can get that off the ground over on 2nd Street. We have a $2.5 million obligation for the conference center that the county is going to match, and that would be all of the local match that's expected on that $17 million facility and roadway. And then we had a couple of other things that could potentially be funded from this bond series. So thank you so much for coming and elaborating. We really appreciate it.
Happy to be here.
If there are no other questions or comments, we'll go ahead and take a roll call, please.
Commissioner Pruitt,
Aye.
Commissioner Witt,
Aye.
Commissioner Vowles,
Aye.
Commissioner Thomas,
Aye.
Mayor Staten.
Aye. Thank you.
Last thing I'll say, a mark of a good leader is sort of what they leave behind, and I'll tell you, Robert Gunter has done a great job. I had a chance to sit down with Chelsea and Dylan a little bit before this meeting, and I told you all jokingly they call me Pawpaw, but really excited for the city of Henderson and the future for you guys, and a lot of great things to work with. So see you all soon. Thanks.
Thank you,
sir. Appreciate it. All right, now we have municipal orders. The first one is municipal order pertaining to Heron Auction and Realty.
Municipal order number 77-24, municipal order approving addendum to contract between the city of Henderson and Heron Auction and Realty of Henderson, Kentucky for services related to the sale of real property located at 105th Street and splitting the commission for the sale with 3% paid to the seller and 3% paid to the buyer, and authorizing the mayor to execute the document on behalf of the city.
And just to make sure, it says paid to, it should say paid by. Does that matter?
Hey, I'm sorry, I read it correctly. It's percent paid by the seller and 3% paid by the buyer.
Okay, no problem. I just want to make sure.
And I should say that when we talked with Kevin today, we cannot force a buyer to pay 3%. We would request them, but we won't pay it.
Yeah.
We're obligated to the 3%.
Okay. So just so we know, before we get a motion, this motion is still in good order, even though it's, okay. As long as we're good. Now, we're contracting here in Auction Realty, we got a 3% fee we're going to have to pay, and somebody else is going to pay the other 3%, assuming.
Yeah.
Okay. We have a motion to approve, please.
So moved.
Wait a second.
Second.
All right, any questions, comments? Yes, sir.
Why aren't we discussing this in executive session? Me.
So.
Explanation for that? I just don't understand why it's out an open meeting.
Well, I think at our last executive session, we discussed the real estate agreement And with that being said, our discussions, fair and auction, realty, came to terms, discussed in executive session. So really, there was, Dawn, you correct me if I'm wrong, but there was really nothing we could go back into executive session to discuss with regards to this contract.
Yeah, these are the actions to follow up on that executive session that we had.
So I guess this might be getting into the next thing we're going to, one kind of incorporates the next one, right? So I'm going to go ahead and talk about it, but I don't quite understand the city's legal maneuver in re-implementing a right of first refusal. That it seems like the argument for why we should re-implement it is that it already applies. So why re-implement something that's already there? If that, if that's the argument, I think I disagree with the argument that it applies currently.
Well, it was a different term, and they reduced the timing of the term from 30 days to 14 days,
15 hours.
or 15 days, sorry.
15, yeah, and then they, excuse me, added a stipulation that if there was a first right of refusal offer, that it could not be financed. And so it would be in an offer that would be matched in totality rather than have any part of it financed. And I think there was one other thing, but I can't remember exactly what that was. It was just two. Oh, no, 6 months. Did we get the 6 months in there?
6 months, what?
That this would expire after 6 months?
That is not in there.
Okay. And that is a separate part. Do we want to go ahead and do the contracting part of it and then talk about the first right of refusal?
So
Okay.
my concern with the contracting part would be that it incorporates the
Yeah, it
Okay.
does incorporate
So I-
it. So if you want to do the 6 months, we probably should table the Heron auction amendment and then, work on the 6 months.
Okay.
And just stop on the next one, pull it off.
One of the commissioners communicated to me that he would like to see it expire after 6 months.
Okay.
And if that's not in there, that was something that was communicated. And the thought process there was that after, within that 6 month period of time, if it expires, they still have the right to buy it
Yeah.
at the price that we would agree upon with them or negotiate. So it doesn't hurt them to have an expiration on the right of refusal, but that was something that one of the commissioners had insisted on it being in there. What other kind of questions do you have?
Generally, is there a legal analysis on whether there is currently right of first refusal at all for these?
Well, we did not make one condition upon the other, but they requested that, they feel like it was conditioned, but it does not say that in the waiver. But we'll go back and talk to them about the 6 months.
Well, before you do that, though, I don't think Commissioner Bowles is done with his thought process.
Oh, sorry.
It sounds like
Yeah.
you're against
I just-
going in and doing any kind of first right of
Yeah,
refusal.
I guess what I would say is, I certainly wish this distillery well. I hope everything is very successful for them. I just don't understand why we would give them a right of first refusal. We have already negotiated them to waive that. So altogether, I would oppose giving them right of first refusal at this point. Considering that we've already waived, or we've already negotiated for them to waive the right of first refusal. That's where I would sit on it.
We probably could use an indication of interest before we go back to and amend however we're going to amend this or whatnot. We do have a motion and a second on the floor, so it's proper discussion. So what does everybody else feel like on the first right of refusal part? Commissioner Pruitt, do you have thoughts?
Well, I thought we give away some incentives to during that time to them for part of that. He's talking about, we give them anything, some kind of money deal. Because they were trying to say they right first.
Right.
We did something.
There was sort of a three-party agreement as
Yeah.
part of that negotiation.
Well,
But on the specific on the first right of refusal, are you in favor of doing some kind of modifications to it and bringing it back? Or would you rather see us not incorporate a first right of refusal into this contract?
Let's don't incorporate. Personally, I hadn't liked the negotiations. None of it. I'm gonna go I'm gonna lean with Boston.
Commissioner Thomas, what are your thoughts?
I'm not sure why we put it back in the first place.
So you're,
I would be against it also.
all right, Commissioner Witt?
I would agree with Commissioner Vouch.
Okay, so why don't we go ahead and take a vote, with the understanding that if you don't agree with the first right of refusal, we will vote no. And then our city attorney will go back, amend the agreement with Aaron Auction Realty in the city, and bring it back to us at our next meeting. That's it, okay? Can we have a roll call, please?
Commissioner Pruitt,
Aye.
If you would like to do away with the right
Oh.
of first refusal, you should
Oh, okay.
cast a vote for no. sir.
Okay, yeah, no.
Commissioner Witt,
Nay.
Commissioner Vowles,
No.
Commissioner Thomas,
Nay.
Mayor State.
Nay. And then we will revisit that one, and if needed, a separate municipal order later, once we have our city attorney work that out and our city manager work that out for our next meeting, which at the end of this, we'll discuss. Our next meeting, we're going to have a special call meeting on October 1st, because we'll have business to attend to then. So I would anticipate that we would have this agreement back on the October 1st agenda. Is that a reasonable request? Yeah, okay. Because of the actions taken on the first municipal order, the second municipal order will be removed from the agenda, and we will move on to the city manager's report.
Okay, just to reinforce what the mayor just said, we'll have a special call meeting on October the 1st. There will be quite a few items on the agenda, but should not be a lengthy meeting, and it will be in lieu of our regular meeting of October the 8th. Second thing I wanted to advise is staff, which would include legal, fire, and building codes. I'm making a recommendation that Board of Commissioners allow staff to hire a consultant to assist staff with the evaluation of the application that has been submitted for battery storage project located within the city of Henderson. And I also further recommend, and I believe Kelsey will agree, since it's in her budget, that we use her professional budget line item to pay for these services. And I will also further state that this is time of the essence due to this project is continuing to move forward, and we're on a tight time frame with this. If you have any questions of our suggestion and recommendation, I'll be glad. I think Dawn is here, Dylan's here, Steve is here, and I think Josh Dixon is in the back as well. That's our suggestion. If y'all have any questions, please let us know. If not, we're going to move ahead. That's all I have.
Any questions, anything?
Seems like a good idea.
All right.
Meeting on October the 1st.
3 o'clock. All right, and with that, we have need for executive session.
I move the commission go into executive session pursuant to KRS 61.8101 subsection B for the discussion that may lead to the future acquisition of real property located in the vicinity of Powell, Letcher, and Washington Street.
Do we have a second?
Second.
All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Aye.
All right, we are moving into executive session. We're going to stay here, and I believe we're not coming back with any kind of action. Is that correct?
No.
Oh, it is correct?
Correct.
Yes, okay.
Missy?
I'll see you Monday.